Hey everybody, Andrew here from Pacific Coast Auto, taking a look at the results of last week's auction picks. Up first, the Lotus 340R. This one was only bid up to $44,110 and it went unsold. Amazingly, the Honda Life Dunk sold for less than Derek's guess. Somebody picked that one up for $50. The Mitsubishi Jeep was also sold. Somebody took that one home for $1,130. There was very little interest in the Nissan Pulsar Autech. That one was unsold and only got bid up to $870. The Mitsubishi Diamante went for quite a bit under Derek's guess. That one went for $370. The Accord Wagon SIR also sold, and it went for just $580. More than Derek's guess, but still a pretty good deal. The seller of the Subaru WRX STI Nürburgring Edition didn't get quite what they wanted. That was only bid up to $46,240, and it went unsold. Not a good week for yellow auction picks because we're closing out with another unsold car. The Honda Beat only got bid up to $36.90, which just wasn't enough. That's going to do it for last week's picks. Now here's Derek with this week's.
Thank you, Andrew, for showing us last week's prices. Now it's me, Derek, to show you this week's cars. And we have all 90s and 2000s JDM sports cars this time. It just happened to be that way. And so thanks everyone for sending those ones in. They're all the cars that everybody loves. And so hopefully this is a popular video for us. So before we get into it, if you want to take part in the searching of the vehicles and supporting us on this site, on this YouTube site, then go ahead and go to auction.pacificcoastjdm.com and you can browse the auctions. You can put in any vehicle type that you like you can buy a Komatsu forklift if you really want. Let's find a better one than that. You can check out the Subaru Acelion. That's actually the Subaru XT in other markets. Cool car. Anyways, and then just go to Facebook. You know how to find us. You go Pacific Coast Auto in the search box for Facebook. You can find us, and then every week you can come and play with us. And I'll be so happy because of that. And so jumping into the first one here, we got thumbnail was won by Eric Elton. You are the winner for the thumbnail because you picked the super orange car, and that is easy to spot, and so it's like clickbait. And so, the car is pretty interesting. Obviously, it has been color changed, and it has a super body kit. And I can understand that a lot of people wouldn't like this body kit because it is so crazy looking on a car that is otherwise fairly subtly styled by today's standards, I would say. But I do think that it's funny. There are going to be people who see this body kit and say, that's a rad S13, and then there are going to be people that think, that's really dumb, why would you do that to the car? But I think if I did drive this car with this body kit, I would see it as something that's really funny, like clown makeup on a car. And only drive it every once in a while so the funniness won't wear off, because as soon as it does, then I'm going to have to sell the car. But I definitely don't think that this is an improvement on the looks, but having a car is supposed to be fun, and so having a car that is fun like this, I could understand that. I think it would be fun to drive it around and just, you know, be a drifto with the cool body kit, with the rear diffuser. And I think in real life it's going to be even more impressive than it is in these pictures, because usually the bumpers on these are really slim and very subtle and very nice, and this is just the opposite of that. Okay, so having a look at, let's look at the wheel. Ta-da, work emotions. That's fun. These are a cool wheel, I think, because I think that they're a good-looking wheel for the price that they are, and they're brand-name wheels, so I do like. Auction sheet. It's a 1989 Silvia K's, and so that's a turbo version, but this one's only the 1800cc, so not the SR20, it's a CA18 DET engine. A lot of people give this engine a bad reputation, saying it's not very good, saying the SR20 is better. It is still a good engine, though. It's just lower on power and doesn't have as much aftermarket support. And the SR20 might be a better engine, but it doesn't make this a bad engine, only by comparison's sake. But I do like the engine. It's more similar to the RB20, actually. I think it's sort of like an RB20 with missing 2 cylinders. Color change to orange, auction grade RA because it's been in an accident. Interior is B- and exterior is B. 99,268 kilometers on there is not that bad. Tain adjustable suspension, work and motion 17-inch wheels, aftermarket exhaust, air filter, drivers, Cobra seat. I don't like a Cobra style seat. Oh. Okay, so there is something called a Cobra style seat, which is a non-reclinable bucket seat, kind of like what you would see in the 60s, 70s. in race cars. This kind of looks like just like a regular black Recaro seat out of like a Civic Type R or something. This one here says that something about the registration is a 2-seater, maybe. I may got that wrong. Autobahn 88 front mount intercooler. Koras Aero Parts? Koras. Okay, cool. Combination tail lamps, so that's an aftermarket one. I do like the looks of aftermarket taillights on this car. Not on all cars, but I do like them on certain cars like this and the S15. What else we got? A strut tower bar on here, aftermarket steering wheel, aftermarket shift knob, toll collection box, and purchased from the user. The body doesn't look too bad, but here's something to keep in mind when you're looking at color changed cars is we don't know what color code this is. So if you ever have to do paint repairs, you're going to have to guess, and it's not going to be perfect. And so if you do get a car that has some damage, like the front bumper here is cracked and misaligned in places with some big scratches on it, if you want to repair that, you can't really do it with the same color. And so you can paint it black, and you can have a Halloween pumpkin car, which could be pretty rad too, but you won't be able to match that color. What do we got here? Cut and modified front inner panel. That's usually to fit the front mount intercooler. Core support is dented. Front tire liners have been removed. On a lowered car, they often are removed, otherwise they would rub. Interior has various parts missing, like stripped interior type thing. They don't say which parts though, which is a bit of a pain. Side step undersides are scratched because it's super low. And look, it's like bump, 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 and so if you go over a speed bump, you're going to hear 3 times, or maybe even 5 because of the front and rear bumpers. Thankfully, Japan doesn't really have speed bumps for the most part. Aftermarket taillights, front bumper reinforcement has a bend in it, front bumper underside scratch, and the battery area has surface rust and corrosion. I don't think it's a bad looking car, and since this one is importable to the US, I think that we're going to see a price that is fairly high, even though it is only this CA18 engine, which will typically lower the price. So I think that we'll see this one go for somewhere around 850,000 yen. Okay, for the next one, for Raymond Yu, another 90s, 2000-ish Japanese car, we have a JZX100 Mark II. And Raymond says, Toyota Mark II Tourer V, another JDM VIP sleeper. I think these days this is only a sleeper to people in the USA. In Japan it's a fairly well-known car, and people who are into drifting or people who are into JDM cars generally know this car now because it's so popular. Rear-wheel drive, long wheelbase, super reliable engine, and probably one of the best cars that you can get if you're getting into drifting, particularly because of the reliable engine and lots of aftermarket parts for it. So if you're drifting and you blow a ball joint or something, you don't have to be looking at 20-year-old parts that you find somewhere in some back alley in somebody's garage or something. You can find new aftermarket parts for basically anything in terms of suspension and steering and engine. And that's the good thing about driving a popular car. So not like a Honda City where you can't get any of the parts ever, and there's no aftermarket support for them. This is kind of cool, carbon Kevlar dashboard panel, aftermarket steering wheel, annoying seat, in my opinion. I think that these are great cars, well-built cars, put together nicely, good styling, excellent choice of parts, a good combination package, but I don't really care for the seats in them that much, and that's the biggest weakness. And so if that's the biggest weakness, I mean, it's a pretty good car, in my opinion. Mileage is unknown. Oh, let me just start at the top. 1996 Mark II Tourer V. That's the first year of these. I think they only made them in like November and December for this first year. Unknown mileage, but the odometer reads 166,875. Auction grade 3.5, interior grade C. Purchased from user, aftermarket front side and rear aero parts, driver's Recaro seat. Aftermarket 17-inch wheels. We got work again. These are also work emotions, just a different version of the work emotion. I think they have 2 or 3, I don't know. Aftermarket exhaust and steering wheel. Gauge is modified. You got an interior picture? Yeah, no extra gauges. This is weird. They usually write it differently. This is a gauge modified car, it says. And so what they mean is that the gauges have been replaced, and that's why the mileage is unknown here. It's original 5-speed, which is good. A lot of people are converting the automatics over to 5-speeds because they're worth a heck of a lot more when they have a 5-speed. Aftermarket front side and rear aero parts, aftermarket steering wheel with no airbag on there, so the airbag lamp is on. Battery needs to be replaced, aftermarket shift knob, aftermarket suspension, underside surface rest, airbag lamp is on, written again there by the inspector. This is inspector, and this is the seller. And what is this? I can't read it because the scan is a little bit weird, but I think that it says power window one of the power windows doesn't work. I don't know though. Hard to say because it's kind of like missing some of the pixels because of a bad scan or something. So paint cracks over here, and then repainted basically everywhere else. And so the body on this is generally pretty good. Paint cracks here and paint cracks there, but a pretty good body. It has aftermarket wheels, it has aftermarket front bumper, side skirts, and rear bumper. Looks like paint on the rear bumper might be a little bit off for the rest of the car. Unknown mileage, but if it were 166,000 kilometers, that wouldn't be too high for this car in my opinion. I think that these cars can go into the 200s and still be a generally pretty good car. And so price for this one, the 5-speed just boosts that price up so much. And since these are so popular with drift cars, the mileage doesn't matter that much because somebody who's into drifting, chances are for them it's pretty easy to do an engine swap when this one goes pop. And if you do drifting, then you run out of engines eventually. Okay, so that being said, I think that we'll see this one selling for around 520,000 yen. That seems low, but it's unknown mileage, but good body. I'm going to change it. I hate doing this, but I'm going to change it to 620,000 yen, and we'll see about that. I don't know how well that's going to go. Now, the next one's kind of interesting. It's sent in by Scott Mack. This one here. It's kind of a similar looking car to this one. It's Nissan's response to this car, I guess. And so this is the Laurel, and the Laurel competes with the Chaser and the Mark II and them. It's a rear-wheel drive, 4-door, large for Japan sedan. This one comes with the RB25 DET engine, that's Skyline's engine for the GTST or the 25 GT Turbo. And it's a pretty good-looking car. It does, compared to the JZX 100s, these ones, it looks a little bit big and clunky, but I think it drives really well. I think it has a great engine, and these are also very popular in drifting because they're generally pretty cheap. So this one has an automatic transmission instead of the manual. They do come with manuals, don't they? We've sold a number of manuals, but I don't know which ones were swaps, but I'm pretty sure that these came in manuals as well. Okay, the Nissan Laurel 1997 2500cc auction grade RA. Interior B, power steering, power windows, aftermarket Navi, aftermarket 17-inch wheels, adjustable suspension, aero parts, Momo steering wheel. The aero parts aren't that big though. I think that we have just this piece and this piece, and I think that they are optional pieces from the factory, not aftermarket. Okay, toll collection box for Japanese highways, HID headlights, and it's RA because it's been in an accident. Left center pillar dented. I usually don't like buying cars with center pillars dented. Although the ones that we have bought, on customers' request of course, I look at them and I can't really find any damage to them, and so it is a little bit weird. I feel like I shouldn't be buying a car with pillar damage because that sounds pretty serious, but then when you look at it, it doesn't look that bad. If at all. A lot of them I buy and I'm like, I can't see anything. I can't see anything wrong with it. So exterior has some paint peeling. Headlights are cloudy and scratched. Left HID doesn't work. Underside surface rust. Interior has some modifications. Wheel scratched. Seat wear. Steering wheel wear. A lot of these circled ones are the very common marks that are going to be on all the cars, and so it doesn't matter really that much, except for this one, like cigarette burn. That would really turn me off. Interior dirty, scratch, door mirror scratch. That's kind of normal stuff for a car that's this old. Aero parts cracked. That kind of sucks. A4 and misaligned section on the front. Generally pretty good on the sides, on both sides. There's an A2, U2 over here that's going to be visible. And an A4 and crack on the back bumper. So it's a large scratch and crack on front and back. Okay, the aftermarket wheels, I don't really care for them. Silver car, well, I would like it in a different color probably more. Silver cars tend to be cheaper though, so there is that. It's very 90s looking. It's very sleeper looking if you don't know what these are. And so, turbo engine, you can make a lot of power very easily compared to a naturally aspirated engine. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm going to change my mind on this car. I don't think this is a good car to buy, because I think that anyone who puts this on the interior, I don't trust their judgment in other things. And so, I don't recommend that you buy this car. But I do like the interior of these usually. It has the goodness of an 80s Japanese car with a little bit of the modernness of a 2000s Japanese car. Okay, price-wise, we got a starting price here of 0 yen, and it's an automatic, and it has a disgusting dashboard, which you could peel off, but still, maybe it's not, yeah. Price-wise, I'm going to go with 180,000 yen. Okay, on to the next one. We have Mitchell Dickens sent in this. It is an Impreza. And we don't usually have Imprezas in this video series. I don't know why. But now we have one. Mitchell says, the first JDM car that got me into the scene, though that urge has since passed. Still cool, though. And yes, absolutely still cool. These are excellent cars, and you can't get much better than these. I prefer the Evo, but they're still so close that whichever one that you like, you can be happy with. There's really not much wrong with these. I do hear a lot of people saying that the head gaskets are weak on these Imprezas, but I don't think that that's the truth. I think that that's an internet myth, because I was mentally counting up how many EJ20 cars that we've sold, and I'm sure it's over 200 or so. And that's not to say all of the auction sheets that I've translated. You see, when we translate the auction sheets, it gives us a really good idea of which cars have common problems, because we get to see the problems every time. And I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've seen on here an engine head gasket failure on one of these cars, on an Impreza or a Legacy or a Forester. They do have some problems from time to time, but a head gasket's not one that I've seen more than a handful of times. And we're talking about thousands of cars that I've translated auction sheets for. And so I think that that's more of a myth. And if it's not a myth, then I think it's on a car that has been modified and you're running a higher pressure inside the engine than you're supposed to. Because most people who modify their cars in Japan don't do it with the Impreza as much as they do with the Evo. And then we see more broken Evos. And so I think reliability-wise, I don't think there's much of a problem. To me, the 280 horsepower that comes in these with the four-wheel drive and the 1,200 kilos, that's suitable for a street car. And I'm not good enough at racing on a track for me to want more power than that on a track either. And so that's just me, though. Something about this car, let's see, what can we say? It's a WR Blue. That's good looking. It says it's a 1999, which is kind of weird because this spoiler wasn't used in 1999, but it is an RA. The RA is the racing version of the car. So it comes with thinner glass, lighter glass. It comes with a roof scoop usually. Not this one, apparently. It comes with no power windows to save weight. Let's see, this one has the power windows, yes. Okay, so what we have here is something that I just shot a report on one of these, and I kind of explained what happens with the WRXs and the STIs. So they started in 1992, and they went on until the year 2000. So this is should be a version 5 here. Has a version 5 front bumper, has a version 4 and earlier rear spoiler. But okay. So here, back up. This isn't an STI, this is just an WRX, and so that's fine. This rear spoiler is fine for the WRX. WRX RA is still the racing version of the WRX, not the STI. It gets really confusing with the GC8 because it changes so much. But what I was going to say is in the later versions, version 5 and version 6, you could mix and match parts between the RA and the regular version. So if you wanted an RA, but you also wanted the power windows, then you can do that. And other things too, including delete the roof thing or change the rear spoiler or other things like that. I think in the last 2 years, most of them were built to order instead of sent to the Subaru dealer and then you bought them off of the lot. Okay, so that being said, the WRX is slightly down on power. It has some slight differences in the stiffness of the chassis and in the suspension, but if a car's this old, it's probably been modified enough that that's a very small deal. I think it's interesting that it has version 1 Impreza wheels on here. You really don't see those ever. That's cool. Okay, and stock exhaust, that's cool too. We have C2, that's corrosion. Blah, don't like it. Paint cracks on the back bumper. What does this say? Roaki. I don't know what that means. Something weird there. And 1999, 178,787 kilometers. Four-wheel drive turbo. Rear diff oil is leaking. That doesn't sound delicious. Various jack points have clamp marks on them. So sometimes people jack up their car incorrectly and it bends the pinch seam, and then the clamp is used to repair that. Left front inner panel dented, upper and left core support dented or repaired from an accident, and the E panel is dented. I don't know what an E panel is. What is that? I've never seen that. I swear I've translated like 10,000 sheets and I've never seen E panel. Body, aside from the rust, I guess good. And because it's a WRX, we'll see the price a little bit down. Especially the small spoiler tends to keep the price down, but the WR Blue pushes it up. So I'd probably say about 440,000 yen for this one is what I would say. And interesting seats in here. These look like version 6 STI seats. So maybe swapped? I don't know. I bet you that if you asked the people at Subaru, they wouldn't be able to tell you all the differences because it changed every year, and there were differences between the WRX and the STI and the WRX STI and the Type R and all of them, and the V Limited versions. So, yeah. The internet is your friend in that respect. We'll go on to the next one because I spent too much time on that car. The next one's really interesting. Check this out. This is an Atenza, also known as the Mazda 6 in the USA. And I've always liked these. I think they're really good-looking cars, and Mazda, when they came out with this and the Mazda 3, they weren't doing that well as a company. And then these came out, and it boosted their popularity big time at that time. And so I think that the car needs a big round of applause for doing that. And so later on in the generation, they made this version, the Mazda Speed. And so they took the regular 4-cylinder 2.3 and put a turbocharger on it. So that's cool to begin with. But they also made it four-wheel drive as well. So it comes with, I think, 275 horsepower and four-wheel drive and turbocharged engine. So it's a good package. The downside to this car is it's really heavy. It's over 1,600 kilos, which makes it heavier than the Celica even, and heavier than the Evo and the STI by a large margin, 200 kilos heavier. For that, it might improve the driving dynamics. I guess we can't really compare it to a GC8 because the next version of the STI was out when this one was a new car, 2007. I think 2006 was the first year of these. And so that one is heavier, but I still think overall this one is a heavier car than any of its competition that's the four-wheel drive turbo kind of rally-ish cars, even though this one was never really a rally car, as far as I know. Still a cool car. 6-speed manual is good. Kind of rare. Not a lot of people are going to have this. It's a 2007 Mazda Speed Atenza. This is auction grade 3 and interior B. The reason why this is auction grade 3 is because it's puffing white smoke large. And so it seems like we got a head gasket problem there. If you want to buy a car cheap and you want to fix the head gasket yourself, this could be a good deal for you. But keep in mind, if it's got a head gasket blown, it might have problems shipping if it gets really bad. Because once the head gasket gets, like, what's happening is you're getting coolant in the combustion chamber, right? If that gets too much coolant, you can have other problems with that as well. If it overheats, you can get cracked cylinder head, and you can even have that just from a blown head gasket. So it is riskier, but for that, you can get a good payoff if you're lucky. Seat wear, underside surface rust and corrosion. I don't like that. Wheels scratch, various scratches and dents. Body looks to be pretty good with some paint cracks here. Otherwise fine. Red is a color that fades very easily. and so we might have some fade issues, even though it's not mentioned on the sheet. Kind of looking at it here, I'm like, is that going to have a light fade in it? I don't know. The Mazda Speed is visually the same as the regular 6, except for dual exhausts. A bigger opening here that is, I guess, happier. And you get a slight bump in the hood here to fit your more power. Okay, next one. This one came close to being the thumbnail, but the colors just don't pop. And we don't usually have the JZA80 Supras on here because we aren't allowed to show USS cars, and most people with these cars send them to USS because USS has higher prices. Okay, so it's a JZA80 Supra. I didn't look over the sheet yet, so I don't really know anything else about it yet, but going off of the pictures, we got a carbon fiber hood. I like the design of the hood on the Supra like this one, but I don't like the carbon fiber with this color. I don't think it's a good match. I also don't like these wheels on the car, and I do like the car without a spoiler, but not all the time. And in this case, it just doesn't do it for me. I would prefer having the hoop spoiler on this car if it was exactly as is. The Supra, look at this, has the yellow tape marks in 4 places. I don't know why you would want that. Strange. Let's have a look at what we have here. So it's a 1998. So this is a late generation version. That means it has Getrag transmission, the best one. Same as the R34 GTR. Supra RZS. The S means it has the Mincy brakes on it instead of the nice big Brembo brakes. 3000cc twin turbo. It's 280 or more horsepower, probably more. 76,170 kilometers, auction grade R, interior B- and exterior B. Aftermarket carbon hood, HKS adjustable suspension, aftermarket 19-inch wheels, aftermarket air filter, exhaust, steering wheel, and shift knob. Driver's seat is aftermarket. This is another car that I really don't like the regular seats in them. What else do we have? Analog TV, muffler, toll collection box, intercooler. Can't see it in there. Oh, you kind of can. Battery needs to be replaced. Front inner panel has accident damage that has been repaired. Front side member, same thing. Core support replaced. Underside scratch and dent. Rear seat ripped. Headliner ripped. Hood damper needs to be replaced. I didn't know these cars had a hood damper. Maybe. Exterior has paint wave on it. This is original. Oh, black. It kind of looks like a dark navy blue in the pictures to me. Okay, so it's black. That kind of makes it look a little bit better in my mind. It looks like it needs some paint refresh, though. Okay, what else? Where are we at here? Rear spoiler has been removed. Rear wiper has been removed. Some trim in the vehicle has been removed. The horn button doesn't work. The console has screw holes in it. Or console has a hole in it. They don't say screw holes. So maybe bigger. Maybe it's like sometimes people drill a hole so that they can put a wire through for iPod or something like that. Dashboard comes up. Commonly they here around the airbag, or the earlier ones don't have an airbag here, but they have like a little extra glove box. So it warps around here and around the AC vents up here, and along here it warps. Very common. It's kind of like the Toyota equivalent of the R32 Skyline's dashboard and how it bubbles. It's on almost all of them. Body-wise, doesn't look too bad. We got some minor dents over here, not super tiny. U2 is a medium dent, but the body seems to be pretty good. Big crack in the front bumper lip, but manageable. Supras with this much mileage are going to be expensive. I don't like the looks of this one that much. I would prefer if it was completely stock over this, but a lot of people do like this kind of look of a car, and there's going to be someone out there that does, and so that's going to keep the price up. I think it's pretty easy for a shop to sell a car that looks like this, maybe change up the wheels and just sell it as is, even with a cracked bumper. Price 1.9 million yen for this one. And that means we're on to the last one, and this is going to be our longest video in the last 4 weeks. I'll go through the next one quickly. Okay, Toyota Celica ST205. Love these cars so much. I grew up in a 180 series Celica, or Celica, and just the turbocharged four-wheel drive ones are so rad, and the rear spoiler is rad, and especially so because this is the kind of the regular rear spoiler, and they just put these extra blocks in there to make it bigger. I just think that that is such a genius. The M3 did it too, I think, the E36 M3. Looks good with the white wheels on it. These are kind of a popular wheel from the 90s. They're not really that popular anymore. I think it's Volk that makes them. They don't look as flashy as modern wheels, but they do look kind of good. The white wheels with the navy blue is a good look, I think. Okay, 1994 Celica GT4, auction grade R, interior C, exterior D, 145 475, 5-speed on there, power steering, power windows. It is a shame they didn't get a 6-speed in this generation, but the Celica wasn't making them any money by this time, so I guess that makes sense. They did have a 6-speed in the Corolla of this generation, but not with the Celica. Weird. Okay, body looks kind of weak. We got peeling paint. We have uneven paint, bad paint, uneven paint. Uneven means kind of color is mismatched. W3 means it could be bubbles in the paint. Unclear paint in the back bumper, cracked here, yeah. Marks from being removed for the hood. Not so good. Engine is shaky, which I wouldn't want to deal with a Celica engine because, I mean, the engine itself is fairly reliable, but you don't get a lot of space in there, and the transmission, and the four-wheel drive system, and yeah, it doesn't sound like something I'd want to mess around with. Engine check light is on. Front crossmember replaced, front inner panel replaced, marks from being repaired. What else do we have? A bunch of other stuff. I'm not really going to get into it. Just the general idea is that the condition isn't very good. It would be fun to buy something like this and just drive around and not care about it. Take a racing or something. It would be a lot of fun. Because the price is going to be pretty cheap, I think. 145, 475 is pretty high for a Celica, I'd say. Starting price 0 yen. I think we'll see this one go for about 320,000 yen. Alright, and that's the end of the video, so I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Anyone who's listening to this right now is 10 points cooler and possible level up. So thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll talk to you next week.